It's our turn, episode number 80, Games with Mythical Creatures. In this episode, Sarah Reed, Kathleen Mercury, and I talk about games with creatures from myth, legends, literature, and movies.
This is the Dice Tower Network, adding games to your wish list since 2005.
Hosting for this episode is generously provided by our fantastic supporters on Patreon.com. If you'd like to help us out by pledging $1 per month or more, please visit patreon.com/OurTurnPodcast. Every dollar helps us to keep this show going strong. Hi, and welcome back to Our Turn. I'm Cathy Ford.
And I'm Sarah Reed.
And I'm Kathleen Mercury.
Hi, ladies.
Hello.
Hi.
It's nice to have you both back on the show. Now, we usually start out the show by talking about what we've been playing lately. And normally, in the past, we've done 2 or 3 games apiece, but we're going to experiment with just doing one and see how long that makes the show.
We do tend to talk a bit.
Yes, we do. And we have very long episodes. And I've gotten some feedback that long episodes aren't always the best.
Let us put you to sleep, darlings. Come with us on this journey. You want to hear more about cockroach poker.
So we're gonna try it with just one apiece today and see how that goes. So if anybody wants to give us some feedback, go ahead and send that to feedback@ourturnpodcast.com. And in the meantime, we'll go ahead and start with Sarah. Sarah, what have you been playing lately?
Well, we got together with some friends, 3 other couples, which then makes 8 of us. And, finding games to play for 8 people can be a bit challenging. Thankfully, last year, one of them introduced us to a game called Skye Joe, and we've actually gotten our own copy of it now, but we also recently played it again.
I have never heard of this one.
It is one of those, like, if you think in the weight class of no thanks or pairs or...
Light family filler game?
Yes, very light, relatively short, takes 15 to 45 minutes. More players means it takes a little bit longer. But the thing is, it plays 2 to 8 players, and it actually plays well at all player counts. So it's designed by Alexander Bernhardt. He also does the art. It's minimal graphic design, but that's fine. Published by Magellano. I think it's a French company, and the only reason I say I think it's a French company is because in the rule booklet, French comes first, and then English is somewhere after it. So that's what I'm thinking. And I don't really know about the distribution, except it's available on Amazon, and it's not a terrible price, like $15. So I don't know how widely available beyond that. So how it works is everyone is dealt 12 cards face down, and you arrange them in a 3x4 grid. And you're going to choose any 2 cards to flip face up. Now, the thing about the cards is they range from -2 to 12. So there's a -2, -1, 0, 1, all the way up to 12. And this is one of those games where you want to have the lowest score over several rounds. So, on your turn, you can either take the top card of the discard pile or the draw pile. And there'll be a card burned for the discard at the beginning, so everybody has the same choice. And you can exchange the card that you can see with either one of your face-up cards or one of your face-down cards. So, for example, if you have 2 face-up cards, they're like 1 and 3. Those are pretty good. But you get like a 0, you could take a chance, maybe discard one of your face-down cards, put the 0... You flip over whatever you discarded. Maybe it's a 12. Maybe it's a -2. But you make that decision, and it's going to go around the table. Everyone has that choice. The round ends when only one player has all their cards are face up. Everybody else gets one more turn, and then everybody flips all their cards up, and you score. Now, here's where it gets tricky. Whoever went out first has to have the lowest score, or their score is doubled. So it's kind of tricky. You might want to just start replacing cards that you can see instead of flipping up new cards, because there's a little bit of strategy to it. You get it like after it takes like one round, and you understand how the game plays. So you write down those scores, and then you play rounds until one player has 100 points or more, and whoever has the lowest number wins. Now there's one special rule. It's 4 columns, 3 rows. Yeah, 4 columns, 3 rows. So if you ever have a column of 3 cards that all have the same number, you discard them all. So like if you can get 3 12s in a column, you can just get rid of all of them. So sometimes people will push their luck. If they've got 2 12s, maybe they'll wait and try to see, because most people will discard a 12, so maybe you can get a 12. So it's this really interesting, I don't know what to call it, because it's not exactly push your luck. It's just you're trying to go for the lowest score. It's an interesting little card game. You can chit chat. It's pretty light. It's just a lot of fun.
BGG lists the mechanism as set collection.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, because like if you wanted to get rid of the column, you'd want the same number. So I guess that's part of set collection. So anyways, for larger groups, although Will and I play it 2-player and have just as much fun. I mean, I think maybe it's a little bit more fun with more people, but Will and I still play it and have fun. I'd give it a 4.5 out of 5. It's solid. In fact, Will got it as a gift. I want to take it to work to teach my coworkers, and he won't let me because he's afraid I'm going to leave it at work.
Sneak it into your quiver.
Oh, yeah, I know. Or eventually I'll just buy a second copy since it's only like $15. So, I think this is just, I don't know why nobody here, I didn't know about it. Our friends who aren't the most hardcore gamers knew about it before us. But then again, we typically do more hardcore games, so that's probably why. I hope it gets more recognition. It's a couple of years old now. It came out in 2015, but obviously not much in the way of marketing or advertising.
Kathleen, is this one that you've heard of?
I have not, actually. So what was the name of it again? Skye Joe?
Yeah, so SKYJO. Skye Joe. It's a bright blue box. All the cards range in colors, but the colors are only really there to, like, the dark blues are the negative numbers, and then it goes to lighter blues, then greens, yellows, orange, and your 10s and 12s are red, because, it's a negative thing. Red's usually considered negative. But other than the color, it doesn't really matter, because it's all about the numbers.
No. Red is... No.
So, this is just a lot of fun. I think if you have room, which most people do, for another light card game that plays with 8 players and really well. And the thing is, if you don't have time to go to 100 points, go to 75, go to whatever, and just play some rounds, because it's just one of those fun things to do when you got a large group of people and you still want to talk, eat chips, chat type of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's one I hadn't heard of. I'm looking at Amazon right now, and it's currently marked down from $19.95 to $14.95.
Yeah. I think we got it from... Will got it as a gift. That's right, yeah.
And it's eligible for Prime.
Hey.
So
That's funny.
I'll just think about that one.
Put it on your wish list.
Yeah, on my games wish list. Yeah. All right, great.
Amazon does say it is the ultimate card game for kids and adults, so...
Ooh.
It's the ultimate.
Ultimate, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
Maybe not, but it's good. It's good.
Well, speaking of games that I'm a big believer do not need to be perfect in order to be fun.
Oh, that's true.
Well, I mean, for my game. Is it okay if I jump in?
Okay,
Go for it.
Okay. So, it's actually cool because tonight's topic, later when we get to it, about mythical creatures, because I went to Indianapolis, not this past weekend, but the one before, to meet with everybody at Colossal to work on the game that I have in development with them, which has magical creatures in it, or mythical creatures, so that's fun. And then after we worked on my game, we it was International Tabletop Day, so then we went to a local place to go play games and stuff, and the game Magical Athlete came up. Are you familiar with it?
No.
I have heard it discussed on Dice Tower, but I've never played it myself.
Yeah,
so I'm looking forward to hearing about this.
I had never heard about it, but the thing is one of the things we were talking about is Tom Vassell is coming to Geekway, which is next week, which is in St. Louis where I live, and a big part of that. And he's coming, and apparently that's one of those games that he always sort of has with him and is always trying to get people to play. And
I think that one and Pitch Car and Wits and Wagers.
Yeah. So anyway, so they're like, Kathleen, you'll love this. And I'm like, okay, what's happening? And then they're like, because the graphic arts are terrible. I'm like, what? So they start talking. So it's crazy. It's this Japanese game. The designer is Takashi Ishida. Artist Mila Aizawa, Umino Senri. This came out in like 2002 from Z-Man.
Dang.
Right. The rating on BGG is 6.5, and I think that's a testament to the fact that you can have a game that necessarily isn't great, but is everything it needs to be. And that's kind of what happens here with Magical Athlete, because basically there's a drafting system where you collect 4 racers, and it's a really simple system. You get a little bit of money, and you basically pay. They slide down, that sort of thing, between $1 and $4, and then you have them race. And the thing is so the card drafting, there's some choices there, I guess, kind of. But the players you get each have a different ability. But the main thing is for the race, you roll a d6 and you move your racer. That's it. But everybody has different abilities. So one of them, if you're on the same space as somebody else, at the end of your roll, you get to move up too. I had, and there's some other ones too, where it's like, if 2 other players are on the same space, not you get to move up. But I had one called the Philosopher, and basically every time somebody took a turn, I was allowed to say yes or no, whether or not they could use their special abilities. So I just had to go, no, no, why, no, this is no. And then I had one who was like the demon, and I don't remember what exactly I did, but basically I got to move anybody in the lead. I got to move them back 1, and then whoever was in last place, they moved up 1 or something like that. I don't even remember if that's what my ability was. But I'm playing this crazy pants game because despite all of the how this shouldn't work, it was funny, you know what I mean? And it was just short enough to where, you're like, okay. I mean, and in some ways what I love about it is it embraces everything that's kind of annoying about roll and move, really, the swing from rolling a 1 versus rolling a 6, but all these different little abilities just make it funny. And there's plenty of people out there who will absolutely hate the game. But the thing is I'm playing this game, so I'm like, all right, so I'm like, this is funny. This is fun. Okay. I could never teach it to my students because this will make them think that this game has everything I don't want them to do in it. You know what I mean? Weird, unbalanced abilities, rolling a d6, rolling, it has everything I can never show this to them. This will be my dirty secret. But the thing is so I'm playing this, and then I'm like, ugh. So then I start, you're in the middle of a game you've never played before, so you open up BGG and you start looking at stuff, and then well, let's see if there's any used copies, and I'm like, $45? What's happening? And then $65. Yeah, the game originally retailed for $25, and I ended up buying it off Amazon for $50, and it's I can't believe I just did this. But what?
I was just looking at it. It doesn't sound like it would be an expensive game, but it is. It's $49.99
because it's out of print, somewhat desirable. And so the funny thing is, I even took a picture of it, posted to Instagram, and all I said was and one of my good friends, Bearded People, he was just he's like, oh my gosh, that's probably the best roll and move game out there, So it kind of is if you're okay with something that it's almost that it's so wrong it's right, and that's the thing, because on the show notes page when we had to give our rating on it, where 5 is buy it now and 1 is whatever, no, probably not, I gave it a range of 2 to 5, honestly, because I was sitting there playing this game is absolutely ridiculous, and I ended up spending $50 on it. But there are plenty of people. I asked my boyfriend Mark if he's played it, and he was like, yeah. So he would fall into the realm of people who would not necessarily think it's a fun way to spend time. But honestly, like you have to have a sense of humor. You know, if you're somebody who's going to get really bent out of shape because somebody like me is just like, no, you can't do your magical ability. No. And that's for the whole race. You know what I mean? That's not just like one time only. No, the whole race. And you do 4 of them, or we did 4 of them. The whole race, I could just tell people, no, you can't use your special ability. And every now and then I'd say, yes, I'm not a total monster. You know? But anyway, so that game was kind of bonkers, and I ended up buying it. So,
Wow.
Magical Athlete.
Yeah, I've heard about it, and I heard that Tom always makes it sound like it's an actual physical game. I mean, that, you know, you have to do things physically. It's not just a game you're playing with cards on a table or something like that. It always, when they're talking about it, it sounds like they're running a race, but in a goofy way.
Well,
and
I don't know. I did hear,
I don't know if he changes it to make that happen.
He might.
Maybe.
The players are the pieces.
Well,
I don't know, but
that's what it. Well, so I've heard his copy is like, and somebody made entirely new art for it. I love gamers so much. Mm-hmm. They made entirely new art for it. I heard his copy. He uses like random pieces for all the different things instead of little stand-ups. I mean, the thing is too, like with the stand-ups, their punch board, they don't fit into the plastic stands. They're too loose and they fall over and they fall out. Like even like that part's ridiculous, you know?
That's when you need Lego.
Yeah, right. We always need Lego, Sarah.
Yes.
We always do. But no, that's the thing. It's like, even like the components and the graphic design, like the characters are cute, but like the board is awful. It's like they took a picture
ugly.
of dirt. Oh my God, they took a picture of dirt and they like added a grid on top of it. It's crazy. Yeah. So, the game is kind of, so, oh yeah, that's the other thing I heard though. Dice Tower, like I think I heard something that Tom's going to have, them play this live, where they're actually going to be like the characters and they're going to actually do a physical race as the characters.
That's probably why I was thinking that that's how you play the game, because that's what I've heard of on Dice Tower.
Right. And I would say that I'll probably watch a little bit of it. I don't know if they'll stay for the whole thing, although God knows I'll get sucked in just like I did. $50 later, I've got a Magical Athlete on my shelf.
You know, that's one of the things that Tom does really well, I think, at conventions. Now, I've never attended one of the conventions he's done stuff at, but I've heard about his Wits and Wagers game. He takes Wits and Wagers and he blows it up so that 50 people can sit and play it.
Oh, that's fun.
And, you know, I'd heard about Magical Athlete, but the only place I've ever heard about it from is when Tom does it at a convention and makes it sound like they're actually running the race. And then you were just saying, yeah, they actually use the people as the pieces. Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me that he does that.
Magical Athlete.
Yeah.
I couldn't even, like, I'm looking right now at my BGG page. It says my rating. I couldn't even tell you. I mean, it's got a 6.5 rating, you know, but I couldn't even tell you. But so it is definitely something where I think this is the grits of games. You're either going to love this or you're probably going to pass. So my official rank, 2 to 5. You choose. Magical.
Depending on who you are and what you like, it's either going to be a 2 or a 5.
Right.
All right.
I like games that are as much fun to play as there to win. I mean, I'll play heavy stuff. I'll play all kinds of stuff. And I have a fair love of the ridiculous. So I was happy to spend $50 on this. And I'll get yelled at by all my serious gamer friends. I will get yelled at. It'll be worth it. It's okay. No, it's fun.
All right. The game I'm going to talk about is Nuns on the Run.
That's a fun one.
Have you guys played this one?
Yes. Oh, yeah. It was unfortunately a total bomb for me and Will, but not surprisingly.
Oh, really? My friend Richard Bright brought this to International Tabletop Day. My friend Price Johnson threw a big shindig at a shopping center, kind of a restaurant center. he basically rented out the atrium for this like restaurant shopping center thing. And we set up tables. I brought a whole bunch of our games. He brought a whole bunch of his games. So we had a game library. It was open to the public. And then we just sat and played games all day. And we probably, at the height of the day, had about 100 people there.
Nice.
Cool.
And
That's
we
awesome.
had people coming in to go eat at the restaurants and stuff. And they're like, what's going on? And so then we tell them it's International Tabletop Day. Would you like to sit down and play a game with us? And I was there until probably about 8:30 or 9, and then I was like, okay, it's time to pack it up and go home. Mm-hmm. And but he was there until after midnight.
Whew.
Yeah, but it was a fun day. But my friend Richard Bright came, and he brought his little chest of games with him. I mean, it's a big chest of games. And one of the games was Nuns on the Run, which I'd heard about. I'd heard about it, and the reviews were not usually very good. And I looked at that, and I went, I'm curious. Can we play that one? He goes, sure, no problem. And pulled it out. He played the nuns, the abbess and the portress. Mm-hmm. Portress?
Something.
I'm looking at BGG here. Prioress. The abbess and the prioress. And the rest of us were playing novice nuns. Mm-hmm. And the whole concept of it is that the novice nuns are sneaking out of bed to go get their heart's desire. And it could be, a note from a lover, or it could be cookies, or it could be a book, just whatever. And so we each had this goal that we were trying to get to a specific place in the abbey so we could get our heart's desire and then get back to bed without getting caught by the abbess or the prioress. And so this is a hidden movement game. Now, the only other hidden movement game I've ever played is Fury of Dracula, and in that one, the players are on the board and Dracula is the hidden mover. In this one, the abbess and the prioress are the ones that are on the board, and you can see where they're moving. But the novice nuns aren't on the board. You're instead saying, okay, I'm moving from here to here, and you're writing it down on a piece of paper, but you're keeping that secret. But if the abbess or prioress moves into a position where they would be able to see your character, then you have to say, yeah, I'm right there. And then you get caught and sent back to bed. Now, you don't necessarily have to go all the way back to your room. You just have to get out of eyesight of the abbess or the prioress, whoever caught you. I thought this was a fun game. Of course, I avoided getting caught, but I never did get to my heart's desire.
What was your heart's desire?
I thought this one was kind of funny for it being a novice nun. It was a love letter. And I'm just like, if you have a lover, you probably should not have joined the convent.
Right. Right.
You're a novice nun. It's still your choice.
Right.
So, anyway, but I had a great time with it. And funny enough, the next day, Mark had a great time with it as well. And funny enough, the next day we went to a flea market at Great Escape Games, which is our friendly local game store, one of them. And there was somebody there who had a copy of Nuns on the Run for $5.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's divine providence right there.
So I snatched it. Yes, and I enjoyed it. And Richard told us that it plays well 2-player. And so we're going to give that a try. We haven't yet. We've been a little busy lately, but I give this one a 5 for me. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I had a great time with it.
Right.
Yeah, and at $5 I couldn't pass it, Yeah. So I've been I've been having some
That's good.
great luck at flea markets lately.
Better than me and my $50 Amazon ridiculous purchase. So
At Conquest Sac, I went to the flea market and I picked up a copy of First Martians for $20.
Oh.
And I picked up a copy of Flashpoint Fire Rescue with what I thought was one expansion for $30. Mm-hmm. It wasn't one expansion. It was 5 expansions.
Oh, my goodness.
So I was really happy with that, too. But yeah, $5 for Nuns on the Run. I also picked up at that same flea market a copy of Miskatonic School for Boys, which I have Miskatonic School for Girls on my game space of Temporal Insufficiency. The boys one is sitting there with it.
oh, that's adorable.
Yeah, but we're gonna get those to the table here pretty soon. So anyway, that's what we've been playing. We have set up and been referring to and rating games by our own rating scale. Here's how we are using this scale. 5. Buy this now. 4. A good solid game. 3. Decent with some bugs. 2. Has great potential as kindling. And 1. Give me back the time I spent playing it. Today's episode is sponsored by BoardGameTables.com. This is Cathy. For the last few months, you have heard Sarah and I talk wistfully about our sponsor, BoardGameTables.com. That's because we don't currently own one of their fine products. Yet. Well, I'm happy to say that Mark and I were able to save up some money and have ordered our own table from BoardGameTables.com. Now, I want to be clear. This is a purchase made with our own money, not something our sponsor is sending to us. We are putting our money where our mouth is. I cannot convey how excited I am to get this table into our game room. Mark and I live in an apartment with our 2 dogs. Everything in our home needs to be small and compact to fit into the rooms we have here. So a traditional rectangular board game table was not going to work for us. That's okay. BoardGameTables.com heard from people like us and made a model to fit into our home too. We ordered their hexagonal table with a topper on it so it can double as a dining table and keep curious and nimble dogs from eating game components we left set up. Yes, Sadie has done this. Our copy of Big Book of Madness has not recovered. We also ordered a cup holder for each place. We ordered the red oak wood with a Carrington stain and speed blue for the cloth on the gaming surface. The table has a pedestal instead of legs, so seating around the table will be easy and comfortable. I really cannot wait to get this table delivered and set up. Because these tables are custom made, it will be a few months before it gets here. When it does, you can be sure I'll post some pictures and tell you all about it. Until then, please consider getting your own custom gaming table from BoardGameTables.com. And don't forget to tell them you heard about it from listening to Our Turn. All right, for today's hot topic, we are talking about games that have creatures from mythology. And specifically, I wanted to broaden this out just a touch. And I'd like to include literature, legends, mythology, TV, and movies. You know, unusual creatures. I was actually kind of surprised when I went to go look at my library, my game library. I don't have a lot of games that even include animals.
Huh.
Much less mythological creatures. I have a few.
Mostly trading in the Mediterranean and space, right?
Nothing wrong with grumpy dudes on the cover of boxes.
I have a lot of space games. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But you're right. It's not the most common theme. I mean, for me and Will, it's something we've been talking about, and I'll talk a little bit about it later, but we actually are thinking and working on a magical pet shop game. Because that's one thing I really want, is to see magical creatures, mythical creatures. One game I'd love to be able to talk about, but haven't gotten to the table yet, is Legendary Creatures that I just got like last month, but haven't gotten it to the table yet. So there's definitely, I think, a lot of room for this genre to grow.
I think so too. Now, we've got some to talk about, obviously, or we would have changed the topic before we started recording. And we've got plenty of honorable mentions here. I mean, we've got 14 listed, and I was actually just going to add a fifth one that I just thought of. But let's go ahead and start talking about the ones that are kind of our favorites. Sarah, what's the one you want to start off with?
Well, since I actually in the honorable mentions is D&D and role-playing games, I thought that was a pretty broad category, but that's where I got my start, and my original love for mythical creatures came from my role-playing experiences. But in board game form, Sword and Sorcery really hits that home. The quality of the game is just amazing. You're playing kind of, not exactly legendary creatures as you would think like that, but legendary heroes. You're actually legendary characters that have, went to rise and then actually died, and you're being brought back to life by powerful sorcery. So you're kind of like resurrected heroes. And you start off not very strong because you haven't, pulled yourself together fully. So as you grow and you start getting back some of your memories and understanding of who you were in life, and that's when your abilities and grow. So that narrative is really cool. And then where the legendary mythical creatures is what you're fighting. The miniatures in this game are just amazing. The giant dragon, I know it'll be a long time before we get to that point, but this miniature is just huge. I want to say it's like a Hydra-like dragon. And so definitely my kind of cooperative, role-playing like board game. And it's beautiful. Just absolutely love it.
Nice. I haven't played that one. I haven't heard of it.
Well, it's another one of those big giant minis. So it's either you back the Kickstarter or you got something else. So yeah, it's unfortunately one of those things like this. I can think of Gloomhaven, and there's been several others over the last 3 or 4 years that if you don't get them on Kickstarter, it's kind of expensive to get it aftermarket, or you're just getting a little bit here and there. So it's kind of hard to get into once it's, out in retail.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Well, like I said, I had trouble finding, very many games in my collection that I've played. I also looked over games that I've played for the last 3 years that I've been tracking games, and there weren't that many there either. So I don't know why this particular facet of this topic doesn't have more games in it. I would think that would be right up there with space games and trading in the Mediterranean. Everybody loves dragons and unicorns and Pegasus and
yeah.
I'm sitting in my game room, and it's funny because just looking around, it's like, wow, we have a ton. Especially when you broaden it. But I'm just looking at one shelf. You've got Lords of Waterdeep. We've got Small World, vast caverns.
Small World. I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, it's vast caverns, and I forget, it's a little bit far away. I can't read the title.
The Crystal Cavern.
Yes, that one. Unicorn Glitter Luck from Haba that I bought a while back because I buy ridiculous things. Just looking around, there's a lot of them. Even depending on if you think, go Star Wars. Looking at all kinds of different things. Just around the room as far as different kinds of games with fantasy creatures. And the thing is I wouldn't necessarily say that fantasy is my chosen, most interest, chosen kind of genre that I'm necessarily drawn to as far as reading but my game that I'm working on right now, the one I was talking about earlier with Colossal, is fantasy based, and it's there will be magical creatures, humanoids, and all kinds of D&D sort of fantasy tropes.
Now this is the one that's based on the pigeon game, right?
Right. Yes, so it's Dirty Dragons, and so I'm really excited about it. But the fun thing about this one is, I guess we could make this my game. I guess it's a little egotistical, but nobody ever said I wasn't. Just kidding. Well, the thing about this is what I think is really interesting, because I play D&D not a lot and not often. I'm kind of a filler player on this one game that happens locally. We play other games. I've run a Harry Potter, whatever. But anyway, moving on. I don't play it a whole lot. So I'm certainly familiar with it and familiar with the different types. One of the games, like with my students, I have Cthulhu in the house. So it's got all the different, all different kinds of, D&D, fantasy kind of things. There's a beholder, there's a giant, block of slime, that sort of thing. So I'm familiar with the tropes, but more from a distance, not necessarily from having played so much like D&D myself as far as getting into it. So the thing that I think is really interesting, and when you're talking about wanting to design a game with animals with magical abilities, the thing about fantasy is it lets you break the laws of science and society. That you can, if you have a game about dolphins, you can have the dolphins swim around, but then if it, but then it's looking for magical gems, and then those magical gems give it some sort of ability, and then it just blows the door open in terms of possibility and stuff. And so the thing that I think is interesting for my game is looking at all these sort of mythical creatures. Dwarves, elves, all kinds, and what is sort of expected of them. There is, even though they're made up, you can't have an elf be short and fat and live in the mountains and dig in the earth. People are like, what are you talking about? That's not an elf. That's obviously a dwarf. Right. I understand that. I know that. But it's interesting, especially when you're playing around with these sorts of mythical ideas, where people sort of have their hard lines as far as what is acceptable for that character to do and what is not acceptable for that character to do, and they're made up, they're mythical, and there's different interpretations. If you look at collectively all the powers that vampires are given, you've got everything from, super speed, super hearing, super strength. Anything that you can think of has been pretty much ascribed to vampires, and don't even get me started about sparkling in the sunshine. That is a Twilight dig. If you haven't read it, good. There's no story. There's literally no plot, but anyway. But that's the thing with mythical creatures. They give you such cool possibilities on what you could have players do, or how they could interact with, other player characters, or whatever you're doing in the game. But you still kind of have to be a little bit careful, I guess, a little bit thoughtful. You have to be informed, I should say, is probably the best word, about how you choose to use them, because if you break those sorts of tropes, even though they're fictitious characters, do not go for it.
You bring up an interesting point. When I was thinking about this topic, I was thinking dragons and unicorns and griffins, but what I didn't consider were elves and dwarves and werewolves and vampires. And I didn't consider them because those are humanoid creatures, not animal type creatures. Yes, a werewolf turns in, from a human to a werewolf, but they start out as human. And my thought was more of, things that look like animals, like Cthulhu. That's why I would include Cthulhu and the elder gods in there. But I hadn't thought about including werewolves and minotaurs and vampires and, that. And, I wouldn't include witches or warlocks, but they're part of, when you're talking about fantasy, they're part of the fantasy genre too.
Right.
It's a good point.
I think that underscores just how big and broad this really could be, and especially with people and their expectations for it. Everybody has their own favorite type of monster, and so if you're reading something and like I dig vampires, I'll just throw that out there, I guess. And
Me too.
Yeah, I know. I asked my students today if they would trade their mortality and humanity to become a vampire, and only like 3 or 4 of them said they would do it. I was like, I totally would. Sorry, everyone. Watch out at night. I'm hungry. But that's the thing, though, is like even like it's such a broad thing, and what people are willing to accept as far as like sort of canon, I guess, in a very undefined way, what people are willing to accept, and when people's interpretations of them, don't follow what is expected. It's just kind of an interesting kind of space to sort of play around with in terms of these ideas. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, I would say for my game, the first one that I would want to mention, and we, I just mentioned like 16, I would say Small World, because I think Small World, it was one of my first games that I played, and I think it does a good job of introducing, not necessarily with a lot of depth in terms of content, more just in terms of just some differences in abilities, but it does have a lot of fantasy characters in there, and I do like how they gave them all the different abilities to interact with the world around them, to interact with the other players. And I think, it's a great game for people who want to move up from, who are familiar with Risk, hopefully, and if not, that's okay. But wanting to move up from those kinds of games into the world, I think it's a really good, like, lighter-ish, medium-ish, kind of game for new players, because they're probably familiar with a lot of the fantastical elements. And so that kind of helps to getting them into gaming itself, because that's what it did for me. Yeah,
and I would add Small World Underground to that as well, that it goes with the darker side of the fantasy creatures. So,
one thing I would say is a friend of mine has like the $350 super gigantic, super, beautiful 3-dimensional Small World, and I would say that that's probably not a buy for me, because at the end of the day it's $350 for Small World. But but for normal Small World prices, sure. No, my sister created a few extra races for Small World, like harpies and stuff, like included more female characters into the mix, which I kind of love that she did.
Oh, nice.
Well. So yeah,
that's great. The first game that came to mind when I started thinking about this topic was Elder Sign. Now, I really enjoy Elder Sign. I love the app. Fantasy Flight did a great job with the app. It absolutely feels like you're playing Elder Sign. Elder Sign's a cooperative game that was designed by Richard Lanius and Kevin Wilson. Like I said, it comes from Fantasy Flight. And in it, you are in a museum and you're trying to defeat cultists and prevent the return of the elder gods from the Lovecraftian world. One of the things that I've heard, and I have to admit, I have never read the Lovecraft novels. I haven't done it. It's on my list of things to do, but I haven't done it yet. But I have seen some discussions where women are not portrayed really well in Lovecraftian novels. But I gotta say, in Elder Sign, I would have to say that for the most part, I think the women are portrayed pretty well in there. One of my favorite characters is a scientist, and monsters can't appear when it's her turn. So I like that. When I look at some of the artwork in Elder Sign, I'm like, oh, come on. One more button wouldn't have killed you, on the women's blouses. But, otherwise it's okay. Mm-hmm. The women don't look weak and helpless. The men, some of them are, big and strapping, and others aren't. I find that the male characters go insane quicker than the female characters, which I thought was kind of interesting. But yeah, I really enjoy this game, and I don't get to play it as often as I'd like to. But I enjoy Elder Sign. If you haven't given it a try, I highly recommend it. Have you guys tried that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but then the whole Cthulhu, I'm not a big horror fan. I don't know if I tried. No, I tried there's a dice version of it, right?
Elder Sign is a dice game.
Oh, am I thinking of something? Okay, so Elder Signs, yeah. Yes, so I tried that. I'm trying to remember. There was another one that's like it. I think it's a bigger game. Anyways.
There's Call of Cthulhu and Cthulhu Wars are both bigger.
Okay.
Huge.
But yeah, Elder Signs didn't quite work for me, but I'm just not as big on the horror side. But you're right, when it comes to mythical, fantastical creatures, it's got lots of them. They're just on the scarier side of the scale for me, I guess.
Kathleen, how about you? What's your favorite game with mythical creatures?
Mine? No, I'm kidding. I'm really kidding. I'm looking around and seeing, like, I keep turning away from the mic, and it's probably not good. I'm looking all around, and I even looked today for a list of, like, top games with mythical creatures, just trying to figure out, like, am I forgetting anything? And honestly, like, out of all the games that were on the list, like, I mean, I played Blood Rage, but when I played Blood Rage, I pretty much spent my time turning all the little creatures around so they faced me, so, like, their little butts were, like, looking at me and stuff like that. I'm a pain in the ass to play with sometimes, I swear. But, I mean, honestly, like, and I almost feel like it's cheating saying Lords of Waterdeep, because it's, the theme is there, but it's really it's just worker placement, getting cubes and converting them into points and other stuff. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily, like, thematically so deep. I've played heavier, like, Cthulhu Wars and stuff like that, and that's, ridiculous. Is that the big one, the just super giant one, Cthulhu Wars? Yeah.
Yeah.
I played that. Yeah, I mean, I played that. So, and that's, certainly more immersive. But yeah, I guess maybe because it's just not one of my chosen kind of themes, that it was I just wasn't as connected to it, so I guess I pick Lords of Waterdeep.
Well, they're in there. There's some quests. I know there's something about an owl bear in there. Because there's always an owl bear.
Right. Well, and I think it was good from, like, an instructional, like, I learned, was honestly, because that's when it came out, I was starting just to play D&D, and I think in a lot of ways was sort of instructional about the world and the different types of things in there, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's so fantasy based. I'm going to think about this. I even asked my students, and some brought up, like, King of Tokyo, which I thought was an interesting kind of choice, as far as you wouldn't necessarily think of that necessarily, like, it's not what would jump out to you, as far as the category goes.
Yeah, it is one of the ones that I thought of when I was thinking about it today. I added it to the honorable mentions. Yeah, I mean, it's got a generic form of King Kong and Godzilla and some of the creatures Godzilla's gone up against in the movies. Yeah, I would say that qualifies. Yeah,
the other one I would actually, now that I'm looking around a little bit more, when I have my students play games at the beginning of the semester, I have them play a pretty curated list so that there's a good variety of mechanics and different types of gameplay. And Castle Panic is always a hit with the kids. It's not one that necessarily for me, like, holds up after lots and lots of plays. There's certain things about it. But that said, is the kids really love it. They've never played anything like it. They like fighting the monsters, when the big bad ones come out, especially if it's not at a great time. They really love that, and it's a really fun theme of, just monsters coming out of the forest to, like, tear down a castle, and they actually tear down the castle, so I would say that's a really good one too.
That's one I'm going to have to add to my list. I haven't played that one.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, basically, yeah, you've got, you're all working together to fight off all these monsters. But if you play the main way, one player gets, can win based on the number of hit points they have. So it's semi-co-op. So you're working together, but especially you may not want to give, you may not want to trade a card to somebody else for them to take out a monster if you can take out that monster in the next turn because, you're the one that would benefit from the hit points, because you just count up the hit points towards victory. But then again, other things can come up where all of a sudden, you've lost a certain type of card or the monsters move more than you think. So, it can throw a little kink into your plans. But you can also play it just pure co-op. You can play it as Overlord, where one person basically controls the monsters and where they go. And so, like, when my students, kind of were done with the base version, yeah, they went full Overlord on each other, So, yeah, Castle Panic's a good one.
Okay. Sarah, how about another one from you?
I really am enjoying Enchanters. There was another Kickstarter, and in fact, it's on Kickstarter right now for their expansion. And then the cool thing they're doing is the previous game and this new expansion are standalone, although you can get both in the new campaign. The focus is creating equipment, but that's half of the game. So one of the things Will and I really love from video games is making equipment, enchanting it, making it better. And the other part of this board game is going out and fighting stuff, because you are trying to protect a little village. And so there's all different types of creatures, some that are recognizable, some that are completely new and made up, which I always think is fun. And it goes back to what Kathleen was saying, is that you can use stuff that exists, but you have to be careful to fit within people's expectations.
Right.
You can have more fun with creating something new, but then you've got to establish everything about that something new, which in some respects you don't have to go too deep in some games. So it's been a lot of fun, because when you start in the game, you're going to pick different creature type decks. And in the deck, we'll have the monsters that you fight, plus the equipment and the enchantments that you can gain to fight them. So they're balanced against themselves. So if you fight stuff that's pretty tough, you're going to get weapons that are tougher, or, different things like that. So it's quite a lot of fun. You start off with a fist card and an of enchanting card. So you have fists of enchanting until you get something else. And then you'll have sword of enchanting, but then you'll get sword of poison. And the other part I love about the game is that it's just the humor it's great. The bottom of every card has flavor text, and the fist has the first part of the sentence, and the of enchanting has a second part of the sentence, and you put the two together. 98% of the time, it is the funniest thing ever. The other 2%, you're like, okay, that's just weird, because it didn't quite work together. But that's okay. It's only 2%, and it's still weird, so weird it still works. Anyways, the artwork in this is just gorgeous. With like I said, I love the unicorn deck. I just, I love unicorns and all those fun, fantastical creatures. They have this big pink dragon. It's so hard to describe, but it looks like it's just rainbow and sunshine, and it's like one of the biggest dragons in the game. And it's all pink and happy, and not happy for you.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So that's Enchanters.
It's another one I hadn't heard of yet.
Yeah, it's a Kickstarter. You know me, 95% of our games are going to be Kickstarter. I am not even going to try. I'm sorry, the designer names, I'm not going to mess them up. I respect them too much. But the publishers are Gindie and Ludi Creations. I believe they're in Greece. Not positive, but great people. They're, like I said, they're on Kickstarter right now. Look for Enchanters Overlord, because they're adding a new Overlord mechanism in the expansion. So one of the things in the base game, if the monsters reach the village and you haven't fought them off, nothing happens. They get discarded. A bunch of people are like, well, shouldn't something bad happen? The monster got to the village. You didn't succeed. So they're adding in overlords that will trigger if a monster gets to the village and you haven't fought them off. So there's going to be a variety of different effects that those overlords have that I'm assuming mostly are going to be bad for you. So,
okay.
Yeah, lots of fun there.
Nice. Kathleen, did you have another one?
Well, I've talked about a ton of them. Little bits and pieces tonight.
Well, then I can go next.
Go for it, please.
I had two that I really enjoy. I love playing these with my family, my grandmother in particular. But that is Suro and Suro of the Seas. I bought Suro when I visited a little friendly local game store in my hometown of Redding, California. There was not a game store up there when I lived up there. So when I went back up for a visit, and I did a search for game stores up there to see if anybody had opened one, and sure enough, they had kind of an unusual setup. They had rented 3 individual store spaces side by side to each other. The first one was, I want to say it's like magic cards and, the whole collectible card game. That's what that store concentrated on. The middle one was a game space for miniatures players. And then the third store was board gamers. but it was all one business. And when I got there, they didn't have enough people on staff to have the right and left stores both open simultaneously.
Oh.
So I went into the one where they had the miniatures and the collectible card games. And I said, I saw some stuff in your board game section that I'd really like to see, but the door's locked. And they explained the situation, and then they locked up that store and they went around to the other one.
Oh my gosh. It's like
and
Clerks.
opened it up and went in, and they recommend, I was looking around and I'm like, I haven't played this game. Do you recommend this game? And they told me about it, and I was like, yep, I'm buying it. And so in Suro, you are playing a dragon, a Chinese flying dragon. And those are the long snake-like ones that you see in Chinese parades and things like that. And you're flying around and you're trying to avoid running into each other or running off the edge of the board. And it's a tile-laying game where there are different paths. There's like 4 different paths on each tile, and you have to put it down in the way you want your dragon to go, and then it goes out to the end of the path. And it's really kind of random. It's very random in how you get the tiles. You draw them from a pile of tiles. They're face down. Suro of the Seas is a little different in that you are a ship, and there are 4 sea monsters, or there are multiple sea monsters on the board, and you're trying to avoid not only running into the sea monsters, but also the other ships. Mm-hmm. I enjoy both of these games. I've introduced my grandmother, who is 98, to Suro, and she enjoyed that one. I haven't introduced her to Suro of the Seas yet. Mark and I have played it, and I really enjoy it. I have heard that there is a giant Suro that Calliope Games put together, and I would very much like to find out how to get that at a local con here, because I think that would be fun to play.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's got dragons and sea monsters.
So it counts. And I would say that's one of my students' favorite filler games when we have game nights, or just a board game club after school. If they've got 10, 15 minutes, that one comes out because it plays 8. It plays 8 well, even though with player elimination, it's fast enough that it's fun, it's interesting. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that one is definitely a favorite amongst my students.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've played the app quite a bit. Not so much lately because the last few times my friends and I played it, it ended in more draws than wins.
I didn't realize there was an app.
Yeah, it's really pretty. It's a little clunky because they tried to make it look more pretty than user friendly.
Oh.
So when you first open the app, it shows the game, and that's it. And so you have to know to click on the board, click on the box, and then it opens up and pulls the board out. And then you have to pick a color. And then sometimes getting connected online is not 100% accurate. So it's gotten better, but we've still had too many also dropped games where someone's lost connection and they can't get back in. Oh. So I think if you're just playing it pass and play on the same device, it's just fine. And it's really slick. The thing that we like to do more, because we have come up upon draws, you can set different goals. And one of them, which is really cool, is to go the longest on the board, not in terms of how many pieces, but distance, I think is how it's called. So all the loops, if you can do multiple loops and backtrack and all that, whoever actually, even if you went out first, if you have the longest tread or path, then you still win. And that's a really neat feature of the app because it can measure it. I wouldn't want to try it with a physical version.
Right. That would be difficult.
That's cool. They thought of that. That's really cool.
Yeah. And I think there's a couple of other variants, but for variants, that one's the most fun, is to see who can have the longest path.
Okay. All right. Any others anybody wants to talk about?
I think I mentioned Legendary Creatures at some point, maybe. I haven't played it yet, but I'm very excited for that one. I've seen a lot of people playing it recently because people are just getting it from the Kickstarter. And I can't tell you anything more about it other than it has lots and lots of legendary creatures in it. And the meeples are all different creature shapes, which I absolutely love. So I'm looking forward to playing that. Hopefully, maybe by the next time I'm on the podcast, I'll actually have had a chance to play, and I'll record a review of it.
Nice. Yeah, I thought I'd go down the honorable mentions here. Everybody's added some really good ones here. King of Tokyo. That's a good one. Unstable Unicorns. Have either of you had a chance to play that?
No.
That's a funny one. It's kind of a party game.
Is that the one put out by Tea Turtle?
I don't remember who puts it out. I played it at my friend Dwayne's house. Hi, Dwayne. And he has the not safe for work expansion for it as well. So, but basically you're breeding unicorns, and they have different skills and abilities, and you can prevent other people from putting unicorns in their stable, or they can put things that aren't helpful in your stable, things like that. So it's a funny, silly game. Another one is Dragon Dodge. That was one I backed on Kickstarter. You're wizards in an arena, and you're moving dragons around this arena, and you're trying to get them to land on your opponents. So that one's fun. Red Dragon Inn. Have either of you played Red Dragon Inn?
I've seen it.
I included this one because at least one of the characters is an orc. And seems like another one was a creature too. Red Dragon Inn, you're basically having drinking games and fights in a
I've
tavern.
Heard that. Yeah, I'm looking at it. I have it. Yes.
Yeah, it's a fun one. So let me ask you: do zombies count as mythical creatures?
if you're including Cthulhu and the Elder Gods, I think it's fine to include zombies. They're modern mythological creatures, since everybody's zombie crazy now. So
I mean, if they break the laws of science or society, that's kind of my stick, I guess. So those would be a yes.
So I added Zombicide and Zombie Dice.
Although I think some people might argue they're more on the sci-fi side, but I think I've seen them in both fantastical and science fiction settings.
Yeah,
so.
you have like the undead, I mean, just because they're not like eating brains, there's still something jacked up going on.
Right.
That's true.
Either way, I don't want it in my house.
Zombicide does have a version that takes place during medieval times, so does that count?
There you go. Sort of.
Munchkin.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Played a lot of that when we were role-playing really heavily. It was D&D and Munchkin. Just those two are our main staple for years.
And then Munchkin Quest. Mark loves to GM Munchkin Quest.
Nice.
Kingsburg. I know at least once you go up against orcs.
Yeah.
It's minor, but it is there.
Yeah. I love Kingsburg. I'll play that every day.
Yeah,
that
that's
is a great game.
D&D and RPGs. Yes, absolutely. Legendary Creatures. Sarah mentioned that one earlier. Simurg.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce it. Smurg is, I think, how I pronounce it. It's all about dragons. I've only played it once or twice, and it's been a while. But I don't know. I don't think you're a dragon, but you are trying to tame dragons or become dragon riders. And it's a really heavy worker placement game. But they did dragon like acrylic shapes, so like standees. And it was a really different way to do a meeple, because they weren't just wood, they were acrylic. I'm pretty sure they're acrylic. Wow, now I really got to pull that out. But yeah, that one was it's a lot of fun because it's all about dragons, and that's all I can remember.
All right, Villagers and Villains.
Yeah, that's another one of my favorites. You are trying to build up a village, but all these bad guys are coming after you, and it's your main staple of fantastical bad guys. This is another one that has a high level of humor. The artwork is just that cartoony hilariousness. But yeah, the whole thing is you've got this little human village that you're trying to build up, but you keep getting attacked by fairies and orcs and all sorts of things. So that's it's a heavy component of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Seasons? I don't remember.
All the familiars. So there's 2 types of cards in Seasons. There's your magic item cards, and then there's your familiars.
Oh,
and
I
all the
forgot about
familiars are mythical creatures. Granted, none of them are the iconic mythical creatures, but they're different creatures that help you do your bidding because you're a wizard. So, yeah.
All right.
I just thought of 2 games that I can't believe I forgot. Catacombs.
Oh, yeah.
It's a dexterity game with you're fighting little mythical creatures. It's really cleverly done. It's big. It's expensive. Nothing wrong with that. Look for Dirty Dragons next year. Just kidding. No, but that's a really fun one because, like, for example, if you're the wizard and you flick things at the monsters to take them out, if you're the wizard, for example, you have like magic missiles, so you've got like 3 extra little things. So what you flick and how you flick it is sort of tied in thematically, and that's a fun one. The other one is like one of my top 5 games and a game I will play any day. It is my favorite game, and it's Iron Dragon, a train game set in a fantasy world. The heaviest element that you'll see that's fantastical is there's different foremen that give you different advantages for either movement or building track or whatever else, but it is set in a fantasy world.
Okay.
Nice.
All right. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Mythical Pet Shop. This is one of yours, Sarah?
Yeah, so that's just a working title because we're still at the just notes phase. But one of the things I've always wanted is something that dealt with the beginning stages of mythical creatures, like, hatching them and raising them, that kind of level of it. And so Will had a item shop concept. And we started talking with some other people who are also making a item shop game. And it's not that there can't be 2 item shop games out there. But Will was like, well, you've always wanted something about mythical pets in terms of, small little baby pets that, mythical pets that you can buy and raise and stuff. And he's like, well, it doesn't really matter what the theme is for items or pets. So he's working on retheming his item shop, which was going to be your standard fantasy fare of swords and shields and potions and stuff. And now it's going to be, little baby unicorns and dragons and gelatinous cubes and
owlbears.
Owlbears. I don't know. We'll see.
Gelatinous cube. Aww.
But yeah, so no idea. That is just a working title. Have no idea where it's going. It's still in the really infancy phase, but I'm excited for it because I love mythical animals. So yeah.
Here, take my money.
Right. Not there yet.
All right. One that I'm looking forward to trying because I recently got a copy is Vast, the Crystal Caverns.
Yes. Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
You get to play the dragon in that. You also get to play the cave.
And you can play goblins and the expansions, which I just finally got. There's also like a nightmare unicorn and a ghost, I think, or something. So there's a lot of really cool mythical creatures that you can play as.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then a couple more that I thought of while we were talking. I have a copy of a game that my husband bought for me when he saw it on eBay. It's called Dragon Riders of Pern, and it is based on the novels. Wow. And I haven't played it yet. It's been sitting on our shelf for a few years. But yeah, he saw that and he's like, oh, she needs this.
I will be very curious to find out what you think of it because I grew up on the Dragon Riders of Pern book. Those and the
I still read them every year.
Those two book series I just grew up on, so I'd be very curious. I can't wait to hear what you think of it.
I think the reason that I haven't played it yet is I don't want to be disappointed.
That's
yeah,
fair.
there is that. It's fair.
I don't want to be disappointed and be sad. The other one that I just thought of, I haven't actually played it, but I've heard nothing but good things about it, and that's Harry Potter and the Battle for Hogwarts.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the other one that I just thought of was Legendary Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, there's that.
Well,
yeah, I see you also got Dungeon Pets on there. That's also a good
Dungeon
one.
Pets. Yeah, I played that with Richard Bright.
Yeah.
That I think that's a game I need to play again and explore it because I had a hard time with it.
Yeah, it's not the easiest to pick up right away. I need to play it again too.
Yeah. So what are your favorite games that include fantasy or mythological creatures or creatures from literature or movies that, don't exist in the real world or, like Kathleen says, defies science and society? So let us know either on Twitter or Board Game Geek or Facebook. And we'll have all of that in our show notes, which you can find at ourturnpodcast.com/episode 79. Thank you, ladies, for joining me for this discussion.
You are so incredibly welcome.
Yep, really happy to be here.
All right, so now we're winding things down and looking ahead. And so, Sarah, what have you got on your plate for the next week or two?
Well, I'm real excited because we're going to be playing Charterstone.
Yes, that is exciting.
So, a while ago, Will and I did a 2-player campaign all the way through, and we're like, it's okay, 2-player, but we really wanted to have the full experience. So, Cathy and Mark, and I'm trying to remember everybody else who's involved. There would be our friend Chris and JT. Is that it? 6?
Uh-huh.
6. What?
Yeah.
Yes, 6 people. So that's Friday. I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping we can get at least, maybe 2. Well, let's shoot for 1 game and see how everyone's feeling and whether we can get 2 in.
Sure.
Then Saturday is a game design meeting, and I'm getting kind of nervous, kind of excited because I still don't know if I'm going to do any game design stuff for Origins, and that's next month in June. So game design meeting, we're going to take box tops to it, try to get it to the table again, see how people are feeling about it. I did just order a prototype from the Game Crafter, which was really expensive because this is a component-heavy game. There are 12 tuck boxes. Each tuck box is like close to $3. So with all the other stuff, that was, with shipping, was about a $70 prototype from the Game Crafter. So I'm not sure.
That sounds like one you need to take to Origins.
Yes, but I want to make sure that it's ready because you only get one chance to have a first impression. But on the other hand, because it's so component heavy, it's not something I'm just going to, if a publisher says, I'm interested, send me a prototype. I'm not just going to whip up a prototype and send it to them because that's expensive. So having it on person, being able to show it would be great. Granted, we're only going to be able to take 1 copy. But if the right publisher says, hey, I want the prototype, then I guess we hand it over. So I'm torn because it is our first Origins. It might be our last Origins. So I want to have fun, but I want to do game design, but I don't want to be stressed out. So we'll see how it goes. So first is just the game design meeting.
But you're already excited about Origins.
Oh, yeah. Well, especially considering I went through this whole thing of, am I even going to be able to go to Origins because my back went out, and I'm doing better. Bulging disc, not fun, but I'm going to the chiropractor. He's got this medieval torture device called a decompression machine, which pulls me apart. So hopefully that's going to pull things in the right direction so I just stop having such intense lower back pain because I had a certain threshold, and now things are kind of above that threshold. So it's been challenging. Then we got our Lego meeting coming up and more gaming with friends. So yeah, lots going on.
Nice. Kathleen, what have you got on your plate for the next couple weeks?
Well, the 2 big kind of banner events are Geekway to the West, the big game convention here, and the end of the school year. Woohoo! The end of the school year. You will now know I don't teach choir. I sing with enthusiasm. Well, actually, one thing that I'm super excited about is my students do a semester-long game design unit. And if you don't know, you can find all my resources to teach game design at KathleenMercury.com for free. And at the end of the semester, I create a geek list, and they put a picture of their game and a short description of their game. And it is one of my favorite things because gamers, designers, people from all over the world mostly players, comment on their games, ask questions. I have the kids respond. And, it's a really tough project. I mean, they're in 7th grade and it's a big, the whole semester leads up to this. And, all it takes is for one person to say, I would totally buy this. I would totally play this. And it's like all of that work is just, it's like having a baby, so I hear. I never had that magical experience, thank God. But, it's like you forget the labor and like, here's this magical thing. I mean, it's really transformative because I want them to really know and believe that their ideas are good and they have merit and they can, stand with other ideas that people put out there. And so that's honestly one of my absolute favorite things that I do because they, it goes from being a school project to adding something to the world, inspiring others, showing other people what they can do, showing themselves what they can do. So I really dig that. And they really pay attention to likes on the individual games. And, I tell them it's a marketplace of ideas and some things are going to appeal more to others. And, it depends on what the game looks like, the title, how you describe it, what you're just doing overall. So that's actually really fun when they kind of start paying attention to that. So that's that. Then this summer, like the next 2 months are bonkers. Memorial Day weekend, I'm going to a national debate tournament. And then after that, I'm going to the Tabletop Network, honing the craft. I'll be speaking there it's a conference for game designers, and I'm super excited about that. I'm going to be on a panel about diversity. I'm going to be presenting to published designers about how you do it. That'll be interesting. No, I'll be mainly talking about my work with students and what I've learned about game design through that, what they can learn. I'm going to, let's see, after that, so that's in Utah. I'll be at Origins. Woohoo! I'm doing 2 weeks of summer camp with kids here. We're doing cardboard arcade games, and that's always really fun to do with elementary kids. I'm going to Origins. I'm going to Dice Tower. And then in between Dice Tower and Gen Con, which I'm going and presenting 3 different sessions at Trade Day, I will be at my lake house for about 3 weeks, flat on my back on the dock in the shade. I'm not a big sun girl, but that's when I'm going to collapse. So
You've got your whole summer planned out.
Oh my God, booked like crazy. But that's what I do. I'm not a sit by the pool kind of teacher. I'm I could be doing something. I could be going somewhere. Okay, I'm going to go do that right now. So I love it. It's so fun. So if you're at any of those conventions and you see me, say hi. I love, love, love to meet new people.
Nice. Well, I am celebrating that my game room is being transformed right now. Woo! We bought 2 big 5x5 Kallax shelves.
Nice.
And discovered that they're not full, which just delights me.
More toys.
Exactly. And then we bought a couple of the smaller Kallax shelves that are 2x4. We were going to use those for an entertainment center, but 2 of them together was too big. So now I am using one of them as our game space of temporal insufficiency. And then we bought a couple of 2x2s that we're using for a couple of things. One, I'm putting game accessories in. We bought some drawers for it. And the other one is like our drop stuff when you walk in the door table.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so our living room and our game room just are looking totally wonderful. There's no more creaky furniture. And then we also purchased a game table from boardgametables.com. Mm-hmm. We've been saving up for this for quite some time. And fair disclosure, boardgametables.com sponsors this show, and they are not sending us one as our fee for them being our sponsor. I'm actually paying cash on the barrelhead for this. But we'd been looking at it, and all of a sudden I went back one day, and they have hexagonal tables, which I had not seen before. Mm-hmm. I'd only seen the rectangular tables. Well, we live in an apartment, so, a great big rectangular table isn't going to work, but a hexagonal table... Mm-hmm. Our hexagonal table does work, and we got it with a table topper. We got blue felt on the inside, and we've had people go, blue, not red. Mm-hmm. Well, I got the red stain on the wood. So, so we compromise. Mark's favorite color is blue, And so we got the red stain and the blue felt. There was no blue stain, or we might have gone that way. And we got the cup holders. So I'm really looking forward to that. But I don't think we're going to be getting that in until maybe July sometime. Mm-hmm. It takes 3 months. Mm-hmm. And I'm
good friends with Katie Adams. She's with Board Game Tables, and hi Chad. It's great. I mean, they're super awesome people, and they've got really great tables. I was pretending to be a salesman at their booth one time, and I was telling people that the felt was like made from the underskin of the underbelly skin of puppies, and that they were joined together with hummingbird beaks, and it was crafted from whalebone, and basically. Chad invited me to discover other booths, I think. But they're great people. Great company. They're great people.
Nice. Well, I have wanted one of their tables for longer than they've been a sponsor. When they became a sponsor of the show, I was thrilled. Mm-hmm. And now I'm even more thrilled that we've managed to save up enough to get the table that we want. So cool. I can't wait for that to get here. It'll fit beautifully into our room, and I can't wait to have people over to play.
Yay.
So anyway, all right. So how can people get a hold of you if they want to connect with you online? Kathleen?
Well, you can find, as I said, all my game stuff at KathleenMercury.com. And I am on Instagram, which is actually pretty just selfish. One of my students said it's animals, games, and me with pictures of myself with makeup on. So people may not find that so interesting, but I'm on Twitter. So that's a really great way to connect with me. It's at Mercury with 7 M's, at Mercury.
All right. And Sarah?
You can find me on Twitter at EurogamerGirl. I'm on and off Board Game Geeks. You can also find me there as Silva Shadow, SILVASHADO. And otherwise, I'm on the Our Turn Facebook page.
And I run the Our Turn Podcast Twitter feed. And that is at Our Turn Podcast. And I'm also the Guildmaster on our Board Game Geek Guild, which is guild number 2600. And you can find links to all of this stuff for me and Sarah and Kathleen on our website, which is ourturnpodcast.com. Thanks for joining me, ladies. This has been fun.
Oh, yeah.
It's been a lot of fun. Thanks.
All right. And until next time, and on behalf of the entire Our Turn podcast crew, that was our turn.
Now it's yours.
Thank you for listening. This episode was recorded on May 7th, 2018, and is written and produced by Kathy Ford, Sarah Reed, and Kathleen Mercury. We want and encourage your questions, comments, and feedback. Please call 916-426-2873 and leave us a short voicemail, or send an email to feedback@ourturnpodcast.com. Our theme music was composed by Adriana Crickle. Incidental music was provided by Ben Sound and Purple Planet Music. Please check out our show notes to learn more about these talented artists. The material in this episode is copyrighted under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License. If you want to learn more about the games discussed in this episode, please visit our website at ourturnpodcast.com/episode 80. You can find a list of the games along with links to their listing on BoardGameGeek.com. We are proud members of the Dice Tower Network. You can find out about other shows in the network like Flip Flory's Super Saturday Board Game Serial, Board Game Design Lab, and Every Night is Game Night by going to dicetowernetwork.com. Thank you for your support. If you like what you heard, please tell your friends about us.